Let's head on to the next category of this Nerd Therapy session, and that is going to be something that we have seen on screen many a times to our disappointment. It's not every day that a major movie takes a villain from some other type of adaptation and just drops the ball on its portrayal in the movie. Just absolutely drops the ball. We've seen it countless times in countless franchises. So our next category is going to be the top 3 most butchered villains on screen. JD, let's start off with you on here. What do you got?
All right, I'll run through my 3. Obviously, Gore, and I kind of expect that on your guys' list. Gore was so sick in the comics, and it just didn't live up. It was terrible. He was in the goofiest movie. You had Christian Bale coming into the MCU as a villain, which none of us would have ever even dreamed of.
No.
And that should have been a top 3 villain all time in the MCU at least. So that definitely Gore. That comic was amazing. Art by what's his name? Who he did Secret Wars? Assad Ribic. So I know, Dave, you like that artist. So that guy did the whole Gore story there. One of the best Thor stories out there. Second one, I'm sticking with Thor stuff, and it's Malekith. And oddly enough, this comes from the same exact Thor run. So after Gore gets finished up with, Malekith comes into the picture and just it starts a war across the galaxy. And in Thor 2, Malekith was one of the worst villains. I kind of like him for what they did with him, but my God, with the potential of Malekith, they did nothing with him. So Gore and Malekith, oddly enough, from the same exact comic run written by Jason Aaron.
Well, and Malekith had a solid actor cast for him too, and he was, from everything I saw, totally underused. Christopher Eccleston. Oh my God, it's bad when I say he's this really solid actor, and then I forget his full name.
Yeah, so thanks Thor franchise for butchering villains. You turned the god of butcher into not butchering gods, and you decided to butcher your villains.
Well, there you
as
go.
creators. My next one is Doomsday from Batman vs Superman. Like, just turned into some useless abomination. That's not
the cave
Doomsday.
troll.
Yeah, he looks just like the cave troll, doesn't he? He, for what it's worth, he was fine in the movie. For what they did, it worked and it was fine. But Doomsday has so much more lore, like with the death of Superman and his whole creation. Like, he evolved thousands of years, maybe hundreds of thousands of years, when his creators kept killing him off, kept putting him in planets to survive until he evolved to be the creature of pure destruction that he came to be. His backstory is amazing. His first big appearance in comics was amazing. The death of Superman, killing each other with a punch. So, I mean, he was just turned into some weird zombie, and it was kind of cool how they revived Zod in that way and turned him into Doomsday. Like, as far as like changing the comics going to a movie, that's kind of a cool concept, but that's not Doomsday. That's just not.
So I will say it's interesting that there was a different concept they used to create him there, because the show Superman and Lois that I've said I've watched, and the last season ended off with a cliffhanger with Doomsday and Superman. And the way Doomsday was created in the show, I won't say, but it's very different from what it was in the movie. And I kind of like it to an extent. I thought it was a creative way to do it. But again, I don't have a comic background to it. But it seems like every interpretation, they do the creation of Doomsday in a different way. From everything I've seen like 3 different ways he's been created. So I have no idea what the actual way was in the comics. But yeah.
You text me I want to see what he happened in Superman and Lois. You got to let me know.
Word. I'll roll into this. So, yes, Gore is on my list. You said everything. You ruined Christian Bale. You're going to the top of the list of most butchered villains. You just freaking blew it. And the worst part about it is he actually was kind of dope in the tiny amount of screen time he got, but they just did not use him enough. And anyways, my number 2 is going to go to Dr. Doom and Fant Four Stick. It just didn't. There was nothing. It just didn't seem like Dr. Doom at all, other than the fact that his name was Victor Von Doom. He had some pretty savage kill scenes, a couple kill shots, but it just didn't feel at all like Dr. Doom. It felt like 11 from Stranger Things. Like, I don't know. It was just bad. It looked bad. The look was awful. It looks like a test crash dummy. I mean, it was just weird. And then my third one is the Green Goblin from The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Ugh.
Oh yeah.
Ugh.
Good call.
Ugh. Dane DeHaan. It's not his fault, but God, the costume design and everything is just disgusting. And it wasn't even like an intimidating. It was just like, it felt like it was a sick, dying kid who was lashing out at people. It was just like, what the hell is this abomination thing here that's flying around cackling? It was bad. It was a freak. I don't even care. He was a freak. He should have just died and not injected himself with that. It was just bad. It was just a bad way to go. One of the worst parts of that movie. I did have an OLI, just one single thing, but it was Galactus from Fantastic Four. He's barely in it, but they turned him into a cloud. I mean, it was just pathetic. It's not even butchered. It was just lazy. It was just really lazy. So
They ran out of money.
yeah.
Dr. Doom and Galactus, I just avoided the taking comic movies seriously era. I avoided that.
That's fair.
Because Doom and
fair.
Galactus are like probably number 1 and 2 of all time. Like, though, that's terrible.
Yeah, I felt like that was like the start of it. Like if there was a worse X-Men villain, I probably would have thrown them in there, like the 2001 X-Men and stuff. But even that, I just thought, yeah, the Fantastic Four thing was just, oof, it was a tough one. Yeah. But that's fair. All mine were not even in the MCU. Well, no, Gore.
Yeah. I was going to say Apocalypse is another one.
Yeah.
That was bad.
But even that, I just rewatched that, and it's not good. But he at least has some scenes where he's like, "Whoa, this guy is pretty intense." So I appreciated a little more the last rewatch I had. But
There's
yeah,
some good
overall,
stuff.
It's not good. Yeah. Love, what do you got?
I had Gore the God Butcher as well, but I'll push that to my OLI.
Oh,
Push it.
I have Enchantress, so
Yeah.
not in a way where
Good call.
I know who Enchantress was and I was excited to see her, but just being
it's just bad.
it was just bad, and being very excited for this Suicide Squad movie. Like the cast was awesome, the hype was awesome, the trailer was cool, and then it's just like, who is this person, and like what's
Belly
really going
dancing.
on? Yeah.
Enchantress.
So pretty bad, very butchered. The next I have the Mandarin from Iron Man 3. I mean, the hype, he's one of the biggest villains for Iron Man, and they just kind of threw it to the side. And then my number one is a combo of Steppenwolf and Darkseid. So only in a sense where the original Justice League completely kept Darkseid out of it and butchered Steppenwolf. And then in the Snyder cut, we finally get Darkseid, but it's like, okay, we're not going to see any of his future, so it was kind of butchered still, the whole overall story.
I think it was only butchered because we didn't get the next chapter. Because to be
Right.
honest with
It
you,
was sick.
I think it was pretty freaking sick to see that in the Snyder Cut. I don't know if it's because it was like a void that was filled from the previous Whedon cut, but I thought his scenes were so sick. It was just the story itself was butchered because we don't get to see the next part of it, and it was built up so well. Like that was built up sick. I couldn't wait to see them fight Darkseid.
I couldn't believe actually, because again we didn't get him in the theatrical, and for a director's cut kind of deal, I was pretty blown away. Again, yeah, the use was butchered. I agree, but the tiny amount we got him, I was like, he looks dope. Like he looks super intimidating. The voice, and I believe his intimidation over his minions and everything. I was so ready to see more of that. So yeah, the execution or the follow through, I guess, of it was butchered for sure.
And Enchantress was such a good call, dude, because I actually liked Suicide Squad, but the villain Enchantress was the absolute worst part of that movie.
Right.
Yeah, that was rough.